Sword of Convallaria may be the JRPG hidden gem of 2024. Many of us in the JRPG community are sleeping on this game because of its monetization structure, but in actuality, the game is separated into two entirely different playstyles. One including the Gacha, and one without it that is played as more like a single player journey. Sword of Convallaria is the sponsor of today's video, but I'm free to give my honest opinion and just break down and show you guys what the game has to offer. I'll also be phoning a friend who's been covering the game since its Asia release to answer a few questions about endgame a little later on. But for now, let's start by breaking down the two different structures that I referenced earlier. Now, the structure for the Gacha side of things is going to be the Fool's Journey and Crossing World. So in the Fool's Journey, this is going to play more akin to the Gacha experience, where you come in here and you'll have different stages that you can try and clear to get resources to prep your characters. And we can see that from here, it says play potential threat in Spiral of Destinies to get the best story experience. And so the Spiral of Destinies is going to be that single player experience a lot of us JRPG fans want to enjoy. The Crossing World is just going to be the resource farm, and I believe at later stages there's going to be a PvP that you can unlock, but it's going to be more asynchronous PvP, not live PvP where you're fighting actively with other players. So just to show you guys this separation, this is going to be from the Gacha side of the game. Ballista is a character that I pulled from a summon, but if we hop out of here and we go to the Spiral of Destinies, we can see that in here, I don't have that character. This is an entirely separate journey, as I mentioned, and a good way to think of this is that it's kind of like a what if scenario. So on the Gacha side of things, you play through the story, and then for this side of things, you get to experience a what if when things changed. And if we hop in here, we can see that my characters have an entirely separate level. It's like an entirely different playstyle is the thing that I'm trying to harp on the most. So I don't have Ballista, which I got from the Gacha. My characters, I have to level up a different way as opposed to just grinding resources with stamina to level up those characters. We have a training ground where you go to put characters in to level up, and this is going to be how you level up your characters in this game mode. But we also have other things like characters have stamina, so if you use them too much, you need to come to the haven and have them rest so that way they can be usable in battle again. These are, like I said, things that we see in your traditional tactical JRPG, whereas with the Gacha side of things, you're able to just play with the units that you summon, and it has entirely separate mechanics for how you play the game. Now, this story is going to be a choice-based narrative that's going to include 120 hours of storytelling with multiple endings, and it's going to have music backed by Hitoshi Sakamoto, who you guys may know from Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 12, and Tactics Ogre. And so the music just complements the game so well as you play and get to experience it. If you haven't already, make sure that you use the link in the description down below to download Sword of Convallaria. And don't forget to use the code SOCCREATOR to get in-game rewards, so that way you can begin the game with a strong start. And on top of that, I can't emphasize this enough, it's a free-to-play game, so you don't have to spend any money to dive into this journey and experience it on your own. But now let's get back into discussing the review so that way you know what there is to offer. A quick preview of the story is you're going to be in a nation that's having riots break out, and you as a mercenary leader are going to be responsible for saving the fate of that nation. And as the story progresses, you're going to get the option to work with 3 different factions, and based on who you choose will determine which storyline you get. And this is where those loops come into play. As I mentioned earlier, you could come back and choose to work with the other faction to see how that storyline unfolds, but it will give you a variety in terms of narrative. Now let's talk about combat, and what I say here is going to persist through both structures of gameplay. It's going to take place on this beautiful, dynamic 3D terrain, and you're going to have a wide variety of characters to assemble your mercenary army. In the top right, we have our weakness structure, and I am doing this demo from the Spiral of Destinies, the single player game mode. And here we have our different units, as well as their energy remaining before they need to go rest. So I can craft my team however I want, and I'm going to look at the terrain and figure out what I can do to take advantage of this situation to win bigger battles where I'm outnumbered easier by being efficient. One thing about Sword of Convallaria is you're going to be able to take advantage of things on the map, such as this gunpowder barrel right here, to win things that you shouldn't when you're outnumbered. And so for this map, for instance, one thing that I can tell they clearly want me to do is wait for enemies to come up this choke point, pop the barrel, deal as much damage as I can, and same for this side. And now I say that because there is this auto mechanic, but this runs and it uses what they think is the best move, not necessarily what you would think is the best move. So although there are ways to auto battle, a lot of times you're gonna have to step in to take advantage in these situations where you're outnumbered. And so we can see that I was able to get the barrel there, and I'll probably be able to get the barrel to the left side. But this is just to show you, yes, there is auto, but you are gonna have to step in and use your tactical JRPG experience unless you're over leveled fighting down on things, which I believe is the case here. Another cool thing that I saw is that you can literally kick people off the map 300 style, no matter how much HP they have, just bloop. Once you do that, they're done. And so these are, like I said, the things that you have to keep in mind when you catch your enemies out of place to where you can kick them off the map. Now, I don't know if they can kick you off the map. That would make things more challenging in terms of the placement of your units, but I haven't seen that happen in a scenario just yet. Now I'll explain kind of the gameplay mechanics, but at the town we can do different things, such as the training ground is where we go to level up our characters, the forge is where we can craft our armor, Haven is where we can go to have our units rest so that way we can prepare them for combat. And then when we come to actually get into combat, the story is going to be driven by this quest system where we have different things that we can do throughout the week. So you get to fight a battle per week, and there is a specific calendar system where you have to do things that hit thresholds before main story events happen. But when you do these different quests, you get resources as well as things that can enhance and level up your units, whether that be skills, armor, etc. And you can also dispatch out units to go farm things such as gold. If we pop out here, we can see the different factions and what their views are towards us as the mercenary group, but we can do things to provide stability within the nation by clearing out some of these quests. When it comes to the characters, this is where they did an amazing job. This 3D pixel art just looks so vibrant and pretty in motion, and then when you click into it, the 2D art is just as good. And we can see that they really did their thing on a lot of these 2D arts to make them very unique and diverse. And then when it comes to gearing up your characters and leveling them, you're gonna have to put them in that training ground. And then as you progress through the story or in the training ground, you can unlock different abilities that are gonna be accessible to you within the campaign, and then equip different pieces of gear to make them stronger. I don't think I covered it earlier, so I'll talk about it here, but the way that you recruit characters within this game mode is you pay for them, and then they refresh every 4 weeks within in-game time with the options that you'll have available. I do believe some do join the party as you progress through the story, but this is going to be how you get different units traditionally. Now let's talk about the Fool's Journey side of things, which is the other gameplay structure I referenced earlier. In here, you're going to be able to summon on the gacha to get different units and build them up to become stronger. Now, the difference here is that when you're looking to level up units, it takes a different resource than the single player campaign, and you're able to level them up there as well as their rank. And so with the ranks, they have different skill trees based on how you want to build that character. So if I want to build this character for survivability, I would take the units on the right side, but if I want to build them in a different way, I would take the skills on the left side. And you can mix and match these so that way you can customize your character however you want. And this persists through all of the units. They both have that different skill tree. And as you unlock the skills, you're going to be able to just slot them in here. There's going to be gear that you're able to farm and equip to units. And then you're also going to be able to improve their star level with getting shards of the characters. Now, a cool thing about this is that you don't necessarily have to only get the shards from the gacha. These are things that can be farmed in other game modes. Now, when it comes to the other game modes, we can just pop in over here, go to the Fool's Journey, and we can see how this is going to be played. As I mentioned, the single player experience is entirely separate, and it's more of like a what if this one event didn't happen at the beginning of this story. That's what the single player takes place, and this follows the events in a different story based on one event actually happening. And so we hit in here and we can see that we can play through the different story mode quests, and they're going to give us resources as well as build the story out a little further. These will take stamina to play through, and they are very challenging. I believe when I got to the final boss here, I could not play this on auto and I actually had to hop in and control the units. But this is going to continuously go on to the different chapters as you progress through the story. And then once you hit points where you're stuck, you're going to have to build up your units to get beefier. And that's where the resource grind comes into place, and that's what this crossing world card is. We can get resources so that way we can level up our skill tree, we can increase our trait, or we can get fragments for the units. I haven't unlocked all of them just yet, but I was told that there is PvP but it's asynchronous. You're not actively live playing against people. And I believe there's a guild system as well, which could be a really fun way to involve friends and just battle their units that they have set up within the guild. But as I mentioned, this isn't something that I have unlocked, so I can't really speak to that. But here you'll have your base where you can add things to it, such as furniture, to make it look cooler. And then we have the gacha system, where you're able to summon on different units. This is a special build, so I don't know that these will actually be the banners in the actual launch of the game, but you are able to pop in here. I believe when I first started, there was a rate up banner where after the first 3 summons, I was guaranteed a 5-star. And now the 5-star I got on this account was Miguel. And so that's one thing I like when I see these games do, is give you an option to mandatory get at least 1 5-star at the beginning of the game, so that way you can build your account around him. Thank you for hopping on the channel, Clint Wolf. My first question for you is, can you play through the entire campaign without utilizing the gacha?
No, bro. You actually have to summon in the tutorial, so I can't lie to you and say that you can do that. But you can use the lower rarity characters, and they're just as good as long as you have actual tactical RPG skills and you understand how to use strategy in battle. As long as you got some good strategy, bro, you can honestly make use of any character as long as you got roles that satisfy what you need in that particular contest. So there's that.
Okay, I see what you mean there. Yeah, you do have to get that first summon off part of the tutorial, but I believe you're referring to like the Fool's Journey, which is like still the gacha side of things. And just for clarification, when you go into the Spiral of Destiny, that's where the gacha is removed and you actually have to recruit different characters. How strong would you say the free-to-play characters are they give you at the start of the game?
Alright, so the free characters include pretty much Mytha, you get Raia at some point, you get Fake Hal, and I would say that Mytha and Raia both have pretty good usage throughout the game. You could honestly use them in your main team and use those as some of those free characters I just talked about that you can use to clear the game with. Going back to the first question. But yeah, they're pretty impressive, and the beauty of Sword of Convallaria is all the characters have 2 different skill trees, so you can actually kind of pick and choose how you want to build those characters to fit your needs. So the free characters are strong, Mytha and Raia and Fake Hal in certain situations, but mainly Mytha and Raia. They're good, they're great.
What are your thoughts on in-game? Like, does it take strategy?
Strategy is a must. You're gonna have to really use your tactical RPG chops, and I'm not gonna lie, like most gacha games, in-game is also a grind fest where you're just trying to really yoke out your account and get your characters built the way you want them to be built for different team comps and stuff like that. But yeah, the in-game content is challenging. The game gets very difficult the more in-depth you get into the actual story of the game. So it's honestly pretty enjoyable, especially since you have that single player mode that you can kind of scale it back a little bit, do something a little bit more casual, but still get that nice sense of progression and that nice dopamine hit every day, right? So cool stuff, cool stuff. I like the end game.
If you haven't already, make sure that you use the link in the description down below to download Sword of Convallaria. You're going to get a choice-based narrative with 120 hours of storytelling and multiple endings, all complemented with the music soundtrack composed by Hitoshi Sakamoto. And on top of that, I can't emphasize this enough, it's a free-to-play game, so you don't have to spend any money to dive into this journey and experience it on your own. And don't forget to use the code SOCCREATOR to get in-game rewards, so that way you can begin the game with a strong start. Once you do download it, make sure to head over to Clint Wolf's channel if you're looking for guides and which characters are good. But thank you once again to Sword of Convallaria for sponsoring this video. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you in the next one.